in the light of mind, chitta, and have the clarity on this very, very fundamental aspect, which is chitta and mind. And perhaps I will give a lot of talk on this part only. What is mind? What are the characteristics of the mind? What is not mind? What is chitta? What is manas? Various terms of the mind which are possible to be used as a synonym. And where is the fundamental difference in the Eastern and the Western approach to mind? On this occasion, particularly today, this is World Mental Health Day. So I thought it's even more pertinent to discuss about the mind, because this is the discussion today that everyone is doing on internet, on everywhere. The world health organizations, they are, especially in this pandemic, people are having those issues with the mind and getting trapped into the negative energies of the mind. And there is a lot of suffering that has been experienced by us through mind, or perhaps the unhealthy ways of understanding mind, or in some way in messing up with the whole idea of the mind. And if we mess up with this massive energy which is called mind, then the results can be disastrous. It's a massive energy. If we can interact with it in the right way, then it can have beautiful consequences also. So one fundamental understanding about mind is that we are blessed with this faculty by the existence. You say it existence, you say it Brahman, you say it God, whatever it is. But it is given to us. And this fundamental energy, as it is given to us, a faculty that is given to us, also given with a beautiful thing, that is freedom to use it. Freedom to use it or not use it. Use it in a right manner or use it in a worst manner. So it is not the mind which is the problem, but it is the one who is using this faculty of mind is the problem. So on this mental health day, we need a fundamental change, a cognitive change in our understanding about the mind, that this mind is not an enemy with whom we have to fight and conquer it. There's a lot of ego game happening in this case, especially even when we are talking about on this World Mental Health Day, we are saying we are ready to fight with the mind and be the mentally healthy. This is so funny. How is that possible? You fight with the mind, which is you, which is part of you, and then you win over it and you conquer it. Then how are you going to be healthy? Because in this fight, if you consider it as a demon or if you consider it as a mad bull, or a drunken elephant, whatever you consider it. And if you mess with it, fight with it, since you are also very powerful, sometimes you might win, but sometimes you may also get defeated. And the problem is that when we win, then, oh, everything is great. But the moment we find that we are losing this battle, since we have made it a battle, and if we feel that we are losing this battle, whatever the reasons of that battle, that loss or in this fight is, we start to deteriorate. This energy starts to deteriorate, fluctuate, and that's where all these psychological consequences will be there. They are anxiety, because you are in this anxious situation where just by seeing this gigantic body, demon mind, you just by seeing the situation get frightened, and you just can't do anything. The whole idea of fight is gone. So then how can we deal with it? And then and once we have fought and won the game, but then there is another level to this game where you have to fight again. Means you just get exhausted in this effort, in this pursuit of conquering the mind. We are losing the mind, and that's where we lose the mental health. What is required? What can we do about it in this situation when the world is so competitive? It's so competitions and all the stresses, which is which can be external or internal. We get exhausted. What we need? How can we mentally healthy then in this situation? What's suggested in the yogic literature is that if we can spend some time with it, just spending some time with this faculty in us, this aspect of us, doing nothing about it, without any idea of fighting or conquering it. When we start to watch, observe, and stay with it, we will be able to unfold various aspects of it. And then, since it is you only, it is part of you only, you may open new pathways inside of various energies within you and befriend with it. Just by spending some time regularly, for some time every day, we just become friends. We become familiar with it. We become friends with it. And the moment we become friends, then the whole game of conquering and fight is over. And you can be in love with it. And the moment you are in love with anything, there is no sickness, there is no ill health. So that's the yogic approach. In Yoga Vasishtha, there is a beautiful story regarding this when they explain about the Chitta. Now I'll come to this part, what is Chitta, what is mind, later on, but just to get the essence of the story. In this story, the Vasishtha, the sage Vasishtha, who is guru of the disciple in this story, Ram, they are having discussions on the ultimate truth, that what is ultimate truth. And one of the discussion that comes between them when the Vasishtha, the sage Vasishtha, starts to tell a story regarding the mind. He said that there was a dense and dark forest, And in this dense and dark forest, there was a very gigantic, big demon residing inside it. And it has thousands of eyes and thousands of hands. And he behaves like a madman, mad person. Now, because he can see through the thousands of eyes and he can do multiple things at a time, he sees number of things at a time, so he runs towards everything to get hold of it. Because he has many eyes, so much exposure, because he has got that much possibility to see the things, so he goes and runs behind the things all day. And when he is not able to get what he desired to get, he gets frustrated, he gets upset, and in that process he starts hitting himself, biting himself, and pulling his skin and doing all that stuff. In one day he was in this kind of situation, and then he somehow found that he fell in a deep well, and that deep well was also having various poisonous creatures inside it. And these all the poisonous creatures, and he was just remaining in that poison all the time. So he will, on the daybreak, he will come out, and then he will wander everywhere, and he gets bored of everything so quick, so soon. And then he starts to again do the same thing, but then he comes back to this household where he's living, in this well where he's living. And now, this is a little strange story. The Vasishtha said that whenever I come across this devil, he would change his direction, that he will not face me. And he said that one day I managed to confront him. When I managed to confront him, the moment I went closer to him and I saw in his eyes, his body starts, all the demonic tendencies starts to settle down. And then he entered in my heart and he became quiet. So in this jungle, in this forest, there are a number of demons that I have made calm. But there are also some other demons that they are avoiding me, and they are still in this miserable situation. And then he says that, then the Rama asks that, who is this demon? Where does he live? What is this story about this demon? And he said that this demon is no one else than the mind. And this forest is this world. And hundreds and thousands of the eyes and hands are desires. I want to do this. I have hundreds of thousands of desires that they arise. And the dark well is in our own shells where we live. When we get exhausted, we come home and we have the shells in which we are living. It's like deep well where we come and settle down every night. After doing all this hunting around, then we come back, which we call home, and then we start to. And who is that I that met him? That I is this wisdom. And so when we look at the mind, means if I look at the mind, it becomes quiet. through contemplation and wisdom, the mind becomes quiet and the person attains supreme bliss. Interesting thing is, nothing has to be done to quieten it except understanding its nature and being aware of its activities. It is in a way summary of all the Chitta Vritti Nirodha thing. If we can do this much, rather than fighting and then going through all kinds of exhausting processes, set aside few moments a day. Be with the mind. Just watch its activity and its settle. So what is mind? Anything. Now here it is very important to understand this fundamental idea about what is mind. Anything that which is other than absolute consciousness falls in the domain of the mind. Note it. Anything other than absolute consciousness is mind. It's in the domain of mind. The description of the mind is so beautiful. It says that the mind is mind, intellect, ego, emotions, life force, body, senses, entire cosmos, space, time, sky, earth, wind. Everything is mind, because if there is no mind, there is no possibility of seeing anything of it. So anything other than absolute consciousness is separate from it. Other than that, everything means the entire creation is mind. That's what somebody told the other day, that my every single cell is mind. True. My every single cell in the liver is mind. Heart is mind. Eyes is mind. Anything that which is separate than pure consciousness is mind. There is nothing, there is a explanation in different words here. There is nothing real or unreal in this world. There is nothing real or unreal in this world. Mind makes it real and unreal. It makes small things appear big, a real thing appear unreal, makes a tasty thing bitter, and turns your enemy into the friend. We have experience of all these things. That in which way this mind works. What is that which makes this mind to behave like that? It is nothing but it's just the characteristic of the mind. It is mind. That it has all those possibilities, that it will show. This is how we magnify our problem. Who does magnify the problem? The mind. The problem was actually not existing in reality yet. Suppose if you start to magnify a problem, that suppose I want to have a family, I want to have a child. You have nothing yet. You just think. And the moment you have this thought, is pure, this is natural. You can think about it, you can desire for it, no problem in it. But the moment you take this and then the associated problems of it, you might magnify them. A lot of times when a couple is planning a child, or if you are in this process of committing into a relationship and you really want to do it, but the mind comes in between and it creates the hell out of it, that you might drop out of that relationship and there was nothing there. Means the problem was not existing, but you just took that one thought and then multiply it, and this is, you circulate it and it becomes a spiral, and that spiral is so powerful that it pulls you down all the energies completely. This is called vritti. These are the vrittis of the mind. So the whole idea is that there is nothing real or unreal, but mind makes everything real or unreal for us. In absolute sense, what is real and unreal is a different question. But when we are engaged through our senses and mind, then it has all the possibilities of magnifying, also minimizing everything. Where you might get into a relationship with a person who is totally hopeless, and you know it, this person is totally hopeless, but you minimize the problem saying, I will change this. And then you get all the taste of the whole horror story that you go through until you break out of it. In both ways, this is the practical example that how does mind can create things and how it can hide the things. It has all the possibilities. There are many names to the mind. It is understood in many different ways, depending on in what situation or in what context it is used. So when we use this mind, we call it manas, we call it chitta, we call it buddhi, we also call it ego, we also call it karma, because karma is also performed into the mind, imagination, desires, effort, memory, sense organs, illusion, action, or we call it internal organ, means antahakarana. It has many different names. In different contexts, it is used. So mind or chitta, we have to see the relationships. I'm coming to it. But very fundamental thing is the absolute consciousness, which is called Chitta, C-I-T or C-H-I-T. Chitta is pure consciousness. And the another aspect is Chitta, means mind, intellect, ego, all together is called Chitta. So the creation of the mind or the birth of the mind is it is happening now. If you look at it from the Sankhya point of view, this Chit or the consciousness or Purusha, there's a different language. And when we see it in the Vedantic context, then it has a different language in it. So in Vedantic language, the idea of the chitta or the mind, the creation or the birth of the mind, is that it is just the will, and the will is to pulsate. From pulsation arise actions and the consequences that follows. Means wherever there is will, there is mind, and that is how it is sustained. It is not possible to differentiate between will, means your willpower, and the mind. Since mind is just an imagined thing, the world it creates is also an imagination or an illusion. Means the idea is that according to Vedantic understanding, the Brahman or the absolute consciousness has this desire, and because of the desire, this pulsation happened, and that pulsation is mind. So mind has a characteristic of pulsation, movement, because it is pulsation only. If there is no pulsation, the existence of the mind is over. Let's say monkey, to understand that. Monkey means what? That which is moving, that which cannot sit still. There is no meditating monkey we can imagine. If a monkey is meditating, means the things are over. Then he is no more a monkey. A monkey is only possible when he is pulsating, he is moving, he is jumping. And that is the idea also about the mind, that all the pulsation that we are having, that's why we have these two approaches. On the basis of that, the entire yogic system is divided in two parts. One is where these people say that you directly work with these pulsations and let those pulsations of the mind calm down. All the methods that are given is to stop the pulsations of the mind. That is what Patanjali calls Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So pulsation is Vritti here in this language. The another method, because it is pulsation of the prana. So there is a new or the whole different approach that was also present, that you work with the pulsations, all kinds of pulsations in the body, starting with your working with your breath. And there is a whole development of the another aspect of the practices. So one is that directly dealing with the pulsation of the mind, saying calm down it. There are methods for it. Patanjali has suggested those methods. Apart from that, there are also methods that are not saying that do anything with the mind. They say to work with your pulsations of the breath. Because when we can work with the pulsations of the breath, prana spanda, then your chitta spanda also settles down. When we are able to work with the pulsations of the mind, then pulsations of the prana are also settled. On the basis of what path you are choosing, you have the way like Jnana Marga or all the Tantra, Hatha, all the physical or somatic based practices, they are saying work with the pulsation in the body. So the meaning is that this mind is that tool, according to this, that there is a pulsation there is a reflection of the absolute consciousness, and that's where the mind becomes active. It means a beautiful thing here again, that it is very, very close to the absolute consciousness. Because that's the link. The chitta is the link. That very first aspect of this chitta is close to the absolute consciousness. However, we get in trouble when all the manifestations or the multiplications of the mind reaching to the senses and multiplying into the world, and then there are desires and there is a whole mess, and then it's very difficult to deal with it. This teaching is saying that have this fundamental clarity that everything that is pulsating, everything that is visible, even though it is gross body for you, is nothing but mind. So entire creation is mind. And this is a link through which we can connect to the absolute consciousness. But all the expressions of the mind, that it has become so big and looks like we are in a hopeless situation that I can't do anything. We have to start seeing mind as a faculty of awareness which is given by the existence for this higher work. Now, one more understanding that the fundamental problem that has happened in the misunderstanding regarding the mind was, there was this, his name is French Clemens Brentano, and he described, he's a European philosopher, and he described consciousness as intentional, means consciousness has intention, which means whatever or whenever we think about something. This is the standard definition of consciousness. So what I did, I tried to look into the dictionary, what is the meaning of consciousness. This Merriam-Webster dictionary, this says that the quality or the state of being aware, especially of something within oneself, is consciousness. Now you go through this, all the definitions that I have noted down. Being conscious of an external object, state or fact is consciousness. These are the dictionary meanings of consciousness. And that's where the fundamental error has happened about understanding of the mind. Because they have confused mind and consciousness as one. Cambridge Dictionary says, the state of understanding and realizing something is consciousness. What I'm trying to say is that in this fundamental understanding about the mind, what they thought, that whenever we think about something, and that's which our intention, and that intention is consciousness. Fundamental error has happened here. So the Cambridge, another definition is the fact of noticing the existence of something is consciousness. And what is the definition of mind? The part of a person that makes it possible for him to think, to feel emotion and understand things, to remember a piece of information. Means what has happened in this, that all the different faculties of mind are mixed up. Like memory is also called mind, emotions are also called mind. But when we are understanding in this philosophical point of view, Indian philosophical point of view, for us, intentional consciousness is also mind. In our understanding, in the yogic understanding, the absolute consciousness is separate from mind. Definitely, in the presence of this absolute consciousness, due to this absolute consciousness only, the mind becomes operational or functional. It means that I am separate from mind or all derivatives of mind. It is body or anything. All derivatives of mind are not me. I am pure consciousness, absolute consciousness. And everything else than this absolute consciousness is mind. In a little broader terms, we call it Chitta. I'm still coming to the Chitta. Now, characteristics of the mind are, since mind grows out of the vibration of the Supreme Self, it is highly mercurial, means fluctuating like barometer, that how it changes. Sorry. Mind's characteristic is, it is very nature of the mind that it fluctuates. It vibrates. Because why it is like that? It is the vibration of the absolute consciousness. It itself is vibration. So it has this property. You cannot ask why mind pulsates, because that's the very faculty of it. In other words, we can say, another simile they give is, just as the coldness is the property of the ice, the blackness is the property of the coal, coolness is the property of ice, blackness is the property of coal, extreme pulsation is the inherent nature of the mind. This is what is mind? What is the characteristic of the mind? Extreme pulsation. What are we doing with the yogic practices? By not pulsating, it's a little scary. The death of mind. Ultimate thing is the death of mind. And that's why we meditate. And meditate is death of mind. Until we do not reach to that, we are in a process of knowing it. Means mind itself is nothing but pulsation. The moment pulsation stops, there's nothing as mind. There's nothing, no entity as mind. Now they are saying that the pulsation of the mind is called ignorance. The pulsation of the mind Avidya, that's what we have discussed earlier. All that pulsation of the mind is ignorance, avidya. And we must end this ignorance by contemplating on our real nature. And mind survives on ignorance or forgetfulness of true nature. Very simple technique. They say how to end ignorance. Remember that I am not the mind, but pure consciousness. Now the problem is that even if we remember this, why we do not end our ignorance? Because that's where we are repeating it only at a superficial stage of the mind. If through our sankalpa we can send this message to this very unconscious mind, the ignorance is over. And that's where Patanjali has defined that process. The 5 kleshas that we discussed in the last class. The first one is avidya, ignorance, which is the root cause of suffering. What is that avidya? Patanjali defines it as our misperception or misidentification or misunderstanding of the fundamental error into our perception which has happened, whatever the cause is behind it. What is that? To mistaken impermanence, impermanent as permanent. This question is still a little unclear. How to end ignorance? Now this lies in this sutra, sutra number 5, chapter 2. I hope this will be very clear now. How to end this ignorance in Patanjali's language. Now I am talking. So far I was not talking in Patanjali's language, but now I am coming to the Patanjali's language. The same thing. Patanjali say how to get rid of this klishta or the klesha or the misery, avidya, fundamental ignorance. How do we misperceive it? We misperceive it by seeing what is impermanent as permanent, what is impure as pure, what is pain as pleasure, and what is non-self as self. It's a deep, deep, erroneous misperception. It is so deep into our unconscious, collective unconscious, in all levels of chitta. This vritti is so deep that we perceive the things in this erroneous manner, in this wrong manner, due to our lack of awareness. What is the cure? Simple reminder. Not reminder in the cognitive level only, but into the very unconscious where the fundamental error has occurred, into the unconscious. How is that possible? Repeated effort. This is where Patanjali is saying method. What is the method to overcome the fluctuations of the mind? And Patanjali says in the sutra number 12, chapter 1, the method is practice and non-attachment. Are you able to connect these dots? That, as I promised you, that I am not going sutra by sutra in a sequence, but I am going Problem is ignorance. Problem is fluctuations, spiral pulsations of the mind, vrittis. Altogether, we are dealing with it. How to work with it? Correction at the fundamental level into our perception, not merely intellectual, but it has to go deep. How it can go deep? When we are in this mode of inner awareness. When we are in this mode of inner awareness, there are possibilities. What is the method? The method is practice and non-attachment. This is just one of the methods Patanjali has said. There are many other methods apart from that. Do not get fixed into it. When Patanjali says that all the fluctuations or the vrittis can be overcome, how? How can we attain the chitta vritti nirodha, the fluctuations of the mind, complete cessation of pulsations? How? He says practice and non-attachment. Have you found the sutra? Am I right? Sutra 12. Practice what? It depends. Many things. But one of the practice which is required is correcting this fundamental error that has occurred due to our misperceptions. By correcting it means, what is the practice? The practice to see impermanent as impermanent and permanent as permanent. Now, it is not a philosophical practice now. It is every day and every moment practice. This is not one day practice. As I told you earlier, we have this disease of forgetfulness so chronic. It's chronic. Just like any chronic disease that we have in our body and it doesn't go. Similarly, we have this fundamental problem, disease of forgetfulness. Forgetfulness of what? That I am pure consciousness. How to correct it again? Practice. Practice what? Reminder, remembrance of this fundamental truth that this is impermanent and this is permanent. To be able to see and differentiate it. Now, so how can I do this? It's not happening. And the practice goes to very gross level here. That very first, okay, my identification is that I am the body. Fine. Be with the body. Observe it. How? Engage with it. How? Asanas. How do I engage with my body to know it more and to know it whether it is permanent or impermanent? Engage with it. Not having philosophical understandings of the body only, because that's not going deep into the unconscious. Then how do I communicate to every single unit of my body, which is cell? How do I communicate with that? Okay, I tell my mind, oh my dear hand, I tell my hand, you are not me. But then still it does so much nonsense. How do I make this mind remember that please don't do this nonsense? To be able to communicate deeper. What is this hand? It is made up of cells, it is made up of the tissues, and all that. Send this memory to every single cell in the tissue. How? Repeat. Repeat what? Practice. What? Asana. When I repeat asana, this is where the whole work happens. Sometimes you might get frustrated being a Ashtanga Vinyasa practitioner, then how much? I have broken all my bones and it has not understood anything yet. So here we have to send this message to every single cell in our hands, in our legs, in our torso, head, all aspects of the body. Practice. And then he says non-attachment. Because if I practice, I become get identified again with it. This is what the nature of the mind again. Whatever it does, it repeats, it just gets entangled with it. So then another support is required here. Non-attachment. Looks very unattainable in the beginning, because it looks, oh my God, what this non-attachment mean? Because non-attachment, then, oh, I am not attached to my body, so I will not eat. And I make mass of it by doing so much detox. Every other day, there is some online detox workshop is happening. Every single Instagram feed is saying detox with me. And you get entrapped with them and you keep detoxing, nothing happens. So this detox and this, and then one day you get, then I say, so many people that they become vegan and they are so advocating it. Just don't mind if you're vegan. And they get completely into this veganism idea. They enjoy it and they start lecturing everything. And they create a huge, not fan following, but the enemies. And then something happens one day and you say, fuck veganism. Suddenly you get so exhausted of it and then say, earlier I used to be vegan. Then you look at their post on Instagram. They say, earlier I used to be vegan. Ages earlier. But now I find this is not. Now I'm keto. The whole idea is that I can get entangled, identified, and get into this multiplication of nonsense again. What is non-attachment then? Do I not attach to my body? Oh, I'm not attached to it, so I just don't care. No, the body is temple of your soul. Take care of it. So much confusion is happening. Then how to work with it again? So what this non-attachment means in this context? Should I not attach to my food? Should I not attach to, then what is this? I can get attached with any idea, anything, and then just get mad into it, and then it causes a lot of problems to me. And I lost all friends. I lost my boyfriend. He hated me because of my veganism, whatever the reasons are. So non-attachment in this context. What is that? Here, non-attachment is developing that attitude, that understanding, a matured understanding to see the body as it is. Again, seeing it as a simple tool, that is body, means not superimposing or not taking away its value, means in the right amount, or not in right amount, but in right perspective I take it. I do whatever is required to do it. I exercise, I eat right, I clean, I do makeup also time to time. Everything is okay. The problem with mind is, again, this is the problem of mind and how it is created. Mind loves to be in any of the extreme. Any of the extreme, because that's where there is fun. That's where the existence of the mind is. If we can take away that imposition, any extra imposition, unnecessary, undesirable imposition on mind, we can start to practice non-attachment. So non-attachment is not negative. Non-attachment is to be able to value all aspects of life, how much that value they deserve. Not less and not more. And that's where the non-attachment is. Because you did what is needed at that time and that's over. And it is not because of some hate, anger, and some sort of this idea in mind that I'm going to conquer and fight. No, right understanding. This much attention, this much value, this person required in this situation. Non-attachment is not that anyone who comes to you and you say, I'm non-attached, so I just don't give a fuck to you. Sorry. It is not like that I just don't care who are you because I'm non-attached. I'm a yogi. The right amount of attention, the right amount of value, care, love, whatever is needed to the self and to the others equally. So when I'm able to do this much work with practice, of course this is practice. Practice to right approach, yogic approach. If you read Patanjali, then you say Patanjali approach. If you say Buddhist, means you read Buddhist approach. If you read Yoga Vasishtha approach. It's not like that. It is just the way it is. The other day we spoke about it in different words when we say moderation. In Bhagavad Gita, the same approach. That's what we discussed in the other days on Bhagavad Gita also. Giving right value to whatever the things are in my life. So Patanjali is saying the same thing. Practice and non-attachment is the key to overcome the ignorance. And he says that there are possibilities. It's not an easy phenomenon, it's a complex phenomenon, because at some time Patanjali mentioned 4 possibilities where prasupta state means dormant state of your klesha, dormant state of your misery, where you are just not responding, nothing is happening inside you. The another possibility is diluted state, Where earlier, like for example, love. When you have no lover in your life, it's just sleeping. That aspect of your love is sleeping. It's not like it's not there. It is there. The moment you met the man of your dreams or woman of your dreams, it awakens and it becomes operative. So Patanjali says four stages, four possibilities, that it is sleeping, it's prasupta, dormant. It can be in diluted state, means what? These kleshas I'm talking about. The kleshas can be in dormant state. It doesn't mean they are not there, but they are dormant. They can be in diluted state. They can be in a scattered state, sometimes there, sometimes not there. And vichin and udar means fully functional. So we can see this with our own experience, that this avidya or this klesha can be in this state of extremely functional when I totally identify with that impermanent thing and I force it to be permanent. I'm so stubborn at that time. I'm so arrogant at that time, completely deluded and ignorant. It's my fully functional state of my avidya. Another stage is possible that I am in scattered state where I am misperceiving it, and then suddenly for a moment I have the glimpse, oh no, it's not true, and I try to correct and again I fall in it, so this process goes on. Then in a diluted state, that it is not that functional, but it is there, it just requires a click, and then it will start to function. And then prasup is sleeping, deep asleep, total ignorance in this tamas state. I just don't care anything. So these all the miseries, these all the kleshas. So it is avidya, the fundamental error that has happened in my perception to consider impermanent as permanent, impure as pure. Sutra 2.5 again, read it there. And pain and as pleasure, and non-self as self. This non-self as self is the mistake that we usually do, is consider mind as the self. And that's where the whole error is there. And then when we are in this error, there's no way out. Separating it, that anything other than absolute consciousness is moving, changing. Everything, whatever I see, is expression of the mind. In the same way, this idea of ego. In this idea of ego, because mind has a property, mind has a characteristic. Either it wants something or it wants to get rid of something. And in this process of wanting or getting rid of something, we have all this creation. And in this creation, one more thing is born, which is the ground, which is the field, avidya field. In this field of avidya, some things will be grown up simultaneously. The moment avidya comes, it brings ego, I-ness. As long as there is desire, there is no problem. The problem is when I say, this is my desire, at any cost I will have to fulfill it. I will have to fulfill it. I can do it. because I am this or I am that. That's where the whole issue begins. When with this pure will, as we said, mind is will. So will and mind is inseparable. And there is no problem in having will. Where is the problem? When we add ego plus will is equal to poison. When we add ego to the will, then you will say, if I don't add it, then how will I do the things in my life? What about this thing called sankalpa? Samkalpa. Sam means balanced. Kalpa, here imagination or will. Means you have the will and you have this ego that I will make myself slim in 1 month. And you have this challenge, 21 days slimming challenge. I don't know, thousands of kinds of challenges are there in Instagram. Dangerous thing. What about after the challenge is over? They don't care because I have to just run my campaign again and again with new name. So this campaign, it is not a campaign. We are on a ego ride the moment we go into this challenge and campaign and I will make myself this or that. Compassion challenge. How's that possible? We challenge someone to be compassionate. It's the most funny thing you can ever imagine. Truthfulness challenge. Handstand challenge. What are we doing with it? What is sankalpa then? That's what you do in yoga nidra, or okay, I want to practice and I want to slim myself. I know that the food that I am having, suppose detox challenge, so vegan challenge, 21 days. So okay, you have that very, very clear and deep understanding that what the hell am I doing with my food? What the hell am I doing with my body? Let me watch my intake. It's not challenge to anyone and anything, but let me be mindful to my intake, all kinds of intake. And when I have it, this message that I want to send is to my unconscious, not having any challenge to anyone and not challenging the mind also, but with pure understanding, where there is an attitude of surrender, acceptance, understanding, compassion to the body. And when I send this message, okay, I need to become watchful, I need to become mindful. What am I eating? What causes me to eat in this way? It is because I get it for free in the office. Then I come back home and vomit it in the night. Whatever the reason is, I watch it carefully. How do I do that? And that conscious effort, that awareness, when it reaches to the unconscious, it becomes my natural behavior. When there is understanding, when there is surrender, acceptance, relaxation, that's where the all work has happened. What I'm desired to, what I'm supposed, this is sankalpa. This is that frame of, so we can have as many as sankalpas we want. And then when we are following that sankalpa, then it's not an ego ride, but it's a journey of self-exploration, of humility, of surrender. And then it becomes the job of the existence to make it a truth for you, that it gets fulfilled for us. This is what the idea of the mind and its faculties is given. So this avidya, in this field of avidya, the ego will grow. Then we have attachment and aversion, rag and dvesha. I could not get it, or I got it. I will get attached to it, or I will be having aversion to it. This is avidya, expressions of avidya again. This is klesha. So they say that you directly work either with avidya and make this ground, dig this deep ground deep, and remove all those all that weed in this ground of ego, of attachment, aversion, fear of death. When you are able to do that work, then there is a higher possibility. When this ground is clear, then we can put the seed of remembrance, seed of knowing this fact that I am pure consciousness. This seed of pure consciousness is not going to grow into this ground full of weed of all those kleshas. So somewhere we are doing this multi-dimensional work, that I am putting the seed and I am continue to work on removing that weed, which is going to cover all this seed of consciousness in me. And for that I need practice with an attitude of non-attachment, that I am doing what is desirable, what is supposed to be done for it, and then I leave it. I just don't mind make it a ego trade issue. And in this way, the way Patanjali is explaining this. The short note to few things. There are 4 terms: chitta, also considered as mind. And this chitta also has intellect, buddhi, intellect, ego, the sense of I-ness, and mind. Means chitta is something big. Roughly we are using the word mind and manas. Actually it is the chitta. In this field of chitta, there is buddhi, there is ego, and there is mind. Mind, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, collective unconscious, all the spheres of the mind. All together, buddhi, like the mind, ego, and intellect, all 3 together make chitta. So you should not get confused anymore now. What is chitta? Chitta is equal to intellect, ego plus mind, all together. Mind, all the aspects of the mind, all together is chitta. One more term which is used in yogic system is antahakaran, or internal instrument. What is internal instrument? Chitta, intellect, ego, mind. all four, is an instrument. It is internal instrument. This is a instrument through which we have chances to reach to the pure consciousness. Through this instrument, we also connect to the world. The processes of yoga are purifying this instrument so that the pure consciousness can be experienced. This is the end of the system. This is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. This is whatever you say about the mind. I think, thank you very much for today, and this is for today.